We often think of love as, something we give, something directed outwards. But here's a thought. What if how well we love ourselves is actually the hidden key?
The key to loving others. And maybe even connecting with something bigger.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this a bit.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? This idea that our internal experience of love, that could be the bedrock.
Right, the foundation for all our other loving connections. It kind of shifts the focus.
Totally. From just what we do externally to what's actually going on inside.
Exactly. So welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring this whole concept of inner love. The source calls it quietude in Hebrew.
Oh, self-love.
Yes. And it's pretty surprising role in how we connect with a higher power.
And we're drawing this from a YouTube video, right? By Rabbi Itamar Schwartz.
That's the one. Video number 010, Eric Kabini Kafri 010 from his channel. We've got the transcript.
Okay, so the big question for you listening is maybe how could understanding this inner love change things?
Yeah, change how you see yourself, your spiritual life maybe.
Right. It takes us beyond just like ticking boxes of action.
Into the essence of who we are. So that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to offer you a fresh perspective, maybe some of those aha moments.
Without getting bogged down in really complex jargon, hopefully.
Right. So what's the plan? How are we tackling this?
Well, first we'll look at how the source kind of separates the outward stuff, taking care of ourselves, from this deeper internal self-love.
Okay.
Then we need to talk about kesfem, that idea of being content with what you have.
Contentment. Crucial.
Very. And then finally, how nurturing this inner self-love can, well, potentially open a door.
To a deeper connection with the divine or a higher power.
Exactly.
All right, let's start there then. These two facets of self-love. The source talks about a more superficial level first.
Yeah, the kind we usually think of, taking care of your physical needs, your emotional needs, wanting people to like you, that sort of thing.
Sure.
And the source calls that the external manifestation, or like a consequence.
The consequence of something deeper.
Exactly. It's the outward sign. Am I healthy? Am I okay? Do people accept me? That's often where our focus is.
But that's just the tip of the iceberg, according to this.
Right. The source says there's this deeper foundational love inside. That's the real deal.
Which it calls?
Exactly. The essence of love itself.
Wow. And it even says that existence, like our existence, depends on some form of love that's big.
It's huge. It's suggesting this internal love is absolutely core to our being. Not just a feeling, but fundamental.
How do we grasp the difference, though, between the external care and this deep essence?
Well, the source uses a really, I think, relatable analogy. It compares how parents are with young kids versus older kids.
Okay.
With little kids, think about it. There's constant outward affection, right? Hugs, kisses, praise.
Totally. And all the caregiving, obviously. Feeding, bathing.
Right. So both the care and the explicit expression of love are really present, really visible.
But with older kids, teenagers maybe?
Exactly. The care might still be there. Maybe it's driving them places, paying for things, offering advice. But those constant, overt displays of affection, they often become less frequent.
Yeah, that's true. The love hasn't gone, but it's shown differently.
Yeah.
Or less, obviously.
Precisely. And the source suggests our inner self-love that can become obscured in a similar way.
How so?
We get so caught up in doing the external self-care, managing our needs, our responsibilities,
that we lose touch with that fundamental inherent love for ourselves.
why not even recognize it's there?
Yeah.
Or we confuse it with just, meeting our needs.
Okay. And this connects to the idea that this inner love, the deep one, is the root of all other love.
That's the argument. It's the foundation, not just for wanting others to love us, but even for our capacity to love, say, a higher power.
So even wanting someone else's approval, that comes from self-love.
The source suggests it's an extension of it. I mean, think about it. If you had zero self-acceptance, would someone else's praise even land? Would it feel real?
Probably not. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
But then why is it so hard to connect with if it's so fundamental, this inner love?
Yeah, the source does say it's challenging, right? Because we mainly experience the external stuff.
Exactly. We're so used to focusing on doing the self-care routines, the achievements, that deeper sense, it gets buried under all the noise.
Layers of needs, desires, external focus.
Right. And that, according to the source, makes it really difficult to connect with a higher power purely through love. Through that deep...
Because our default connection is based on our needs, the external self-love.
Which the source links to things like gratitude or acknowledgement and prayer.
Right. Gratitude for what we receive, prayer for what we need or want.
Exactly. Both super important ways to connect, no doubt. But they operate primarily on that level of needs and the external self, getting and asking.
But a connection based on pure love, that requires going deeper.
You have to tap into that inner core of self-love first. That's the idea.
Okay, this feels like where K and Kek come in.
Yes, exactly. For its own sake versus not for its own sake.
So self-love, and that's just about meeting my needs. Like, I need to love myself so I function better. That's S.
That's how the source frames it. It's love with an agenda, you could say,
Yeah.
driven by wanting a specific benefit or fulfilling a need.
Yeah.
It's almost transactional.
Okay, whereas,
That's the deeper love.
yeah.
Love for the sake of love itself. No immediate strings attached, no direct calculation of personal gain.
Pure self-love, right? And the idea is when you can access that, then you can have pure love for others or for a higher power that isn't just about what you get out of it. That really shifts the perspective on love. It's not just about taking care of needs.
No, the source clarifies that. It says love is a fundamental power within the soul, like courage or wisdom or any other core capacity.
Not just a response to lack.
Exactly. It's an inherent force.
Okay, so how does being happy with your lot, contentment, how does that unlock this deeper love? It seems key.
It really is presented as the linchpin. The idea is when we're not content, when we always feel like something's missing.
We're constantly looking outside ourselves, chasing the next thing.
Precisely. Always searching, striving, trying to fill that perceived gap. And that constant outward focus, that striving,
Yeah.
it just completely obscures the deeper self-love.
Because our attention is always on what we don't have.
Right. You can't really appreciate the inherent love within if your whole energy is directed towards acquiring something external.
So contentment creates a kind of stillness, inner quiet.
Exactly. Yeah. Quiets that restless engine of more, more, more. It allows the noise to die down so that inherent, quiet love can actually surface and be felt.
And the source links this contentment directly to faith.
Strong link.
Yeah.
The idea is the stronger your faith, your deep belief that what you have right now is actually what you need, that it's provided.
The less you feel that lack, that constant need to strive.
Exactly. Reciting principles of faith, internalizing that trust in a provider, helps cultivate that sense of sufficiency. It counters the feeling of lack.
Is it something you can just decide to do? Like, okay, today I'll be content. The source mentions trying to make oneself content.
Yeah, it acknowledges you can try temporary fixes, like
Yeah.
self-soothing or distraction. But it suggests that true, deep, the kind that really unlocks that inner love.
That comes from something more fundamental.
Right, like deep-seated faith, or maybe profound inner work and self-awareness.
Yeah.
It's not just a surface-level attitude adjustment.
Okay. So let's say through faith or inner work, someone starts to access this internal self-love. How do they then direct that towards a higher power?
Well, once you connect with that pure love within yourself, the source suggests it's a natural step to extend it.
It's not about manufacturing a feeling for the divine, but letting the love already present flow outwards.
Exactly. You move beyond a relationship based solely on needs and requests towards one based on this shared essence of love.
And this is where that practice of solitude or contemplation comes in.
Yes, it's presented as a key practice. It gives you the space, the quiet, to first connect with that inner love.
And
then consciously direct that feeling, those thoughts, those expressions of love towards the divine.
how? Like using specific words or prayers.
Could be reflecting on verses, using wisdom from texts, or just expressing personal feelings of love, connection, appreciation. But the key is where it's coming from.
Not just reciting something by rote, but letting it arise from that foundation of genuine inner self-love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an authentic outpouring from your core, not just an external performance of enthusiasm.
It feels like there's a clear progression outlined here.
Yeah, the source kind of maps it out, starting with external self-care.
Then uncovering that internal self-love.
Then the connection with the divine based on needs gratitude and prayer.
And finally, reaching that deep internal connection rooted in pure love.
It really shows a path towards a potentially much deeper, more meaningful relationship. From transactional to transformational, maybe?
What about giving? You know, acts of kindness, giving to others, doesn't that foster inner love? It seems like a common idea.
That's a good question. The source acknowledges giving creates connection, and it's valuable, absolutely. But it views it primarily as an external expression of love. The kind of deep, inherent love we're discussing here is seen as more foundational, more internal.
So love that depends on the act of giving is maybe contingent. not the core essence.
That seems to be the perspective here, yes. It's an outcome, not the source itself.
Okay. So going back to kefet, how do we actually get there if it's so crucial?
Well, the source points to a few pathways. Deep inner reflection, self-awareness. It mentions these were covered in earlier teachings.
So inner work.
Definitely. Also, actively cultivating strong faith and really internalizing that what you have is enough. That's key.
And it also admits some people might just naturally be more inclined that way.
Yeah, it acknowledges that some individuals might just have a greater natural disposition towards contentment.
Now, there's also a connection made between gratitude and giving in developing faith, referencing Rabbi Dessler, I think.
Right. The idea mentioned is that gratitude can stem from the act of giving, and faith, in turn, can be built on gratitude. It's like a virtuous cycle.
So if giving can lead to gratitude, which builds faith, which helps contentment, why the strong focus here on the inner work first, rather than just saying, go out and give more?
That's a really important point. The concern raised in the source seems to be that focusing only on external actions like giving, while it might not guarantee genuine inner change.
You could just be going through the motions.
Potentially. People could perform acts of giving but still remain stuck internally without cultivating that deep love or contentment. It's like fixing the outside without addressing the inside.
The leaky bucket idea you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. So while giving is good, this specific teaching seems to prioritize accessing and strengthening those internal resources first, building the foundation from within.
Okay, wow. Lots to think about there. Let's try and distill this. What are the main takeaways for you, the listener, from this deep dive?
I think first, really grasping that distinction between the surface level self-care and that deeper inherent self-love. Just recognizing there are two levels is huge.
Okay, what else?
Second, the absolutely crucial role of contentment, seeing it not just as a nice feeling, but as the key that unlocks that deeper love by quieting the noise of wanting more.
Right, contentment as an active ingredient.
Yes. And third, realizing how this awakened inner love then becomes the authentic foundation for a different kind of connection.
A connection with something greater that's based on love itself, not just needs.
Exactly, moving beyond the transactional.
So maybe a final thought for you to mull over. Consider where your own sense of love, especially self-love, comes from most often.
Is it primarily tied to actions, giving, receiving, achieving? Or have you maybe had glimpses of that quieter, deeper wellspring within?
Yeah. And what might shift for you if you consciously tried to nurture that inner love, not as a way to get something else, but just valuing it for what it is?
Well, it's a powerful idea to sit with.